check, 1, 2.
Go! Curious about real estate? Yes! Then you've come to the right place. Get the knowledge you need, get over the fear, and get started. This is the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show with your host, Michael Quarles.
Hello, everybody. Michael Quarles with the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show, and welcome to podcast episode 257. I've got here in my hands 5 questions sent in by real estate investors. And remember, if you have a question, send it to support@michaelquarles.com. Here we go. Question number 1. If you have a hard to pronounce long name, should you shorten it on the mail piece? Yeah. In fact, man, I'm going to go one step further than that. If you have a name that isn't custom, so whoever your prospect group is, if your name, they won't know how to pronounce, they won't know what it stands for, what it means, you may consider having more of a generic, use a nickname, use a phantom name. I use Alex and Ryan a lot because I like non-gendered names. So it works for me. I don't mind putting on mail pieces, call Alex. Everybody that answers the phone who's an Alex says, hello, this is Alex. And then, of course, the Ryans say Ryans and the Angels say Angels. So if you have a hard to pronounce long name, shorten it. And then I would really consider moving on to something that's more acceptable. And it's all about the comfort level of our prospect. And, our job is to attract as many of those as we can. And yes, you may be very proud of the name that you were given by your relatives and your heritage and that kind of thing. However, if it interferes in your bottom line, your dollar, you may want to consider that. And you may also consider, hey, I don't care, Mike. I'm going to leave it like it is. Question number 2, how do you determine the as-is value of a house? Well, that's a lot of work. There's an easy solution, but the reality is you still have to know how to do it the hard way. And that is you have to know how to evaluate like-type houses as they compare to your house. So if you look at a CMA, comparative market analysis, from a realtor or a CMA from public record, you're going to basically see addresses, bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, year built, and distance away from your subject property. But that's really not creating or determining an as-is value, because all you're doing is going, hey, house built in 1960, it's 1,000 square feet, it's a 3 and 2. Mine is built in 1964, 1,020 square feet, it's a 3 and 2. And you're going to think, well, I can just use those two and get my as-is value. You can't. Until you determine if that first house that you're using to compare yours to, was it ARV? Was it as-is? Was anything done to it? Were all of the houses in the neighborhood that have been selling, are they as-is or ARV? How many of them are ARV? How many of them are as-is? Compare those two. So you do a subtraction and an addition depending on what another house had and what it sold for and what yours has as it compares to that house. So if the comparable sale had a Formica countertops and yours has granite, well, then you're going to increase money for yours. But if the reverse is true, where theirs has granite or had granite and yours has Formica, well, then you're going to decrease money from the value of their house to get the value of your house. So you really have to know how to do all those things. It's not hard to learn. It's what we teach in our coaching program. Then once you determine that, if you're at an ARV perspective, so you have all of your comparable sales are ARVs. So we know that your house, you think it's worth 150, but all the ARVs are 225, and that's what your house is going to be worth once your house becomes the houses that you're using to compare, and you do all the subtractions and additions and all that kind of good stuff. But then there's a really quick formula that we teach in the coaching program. So it's really not that hard to determine, but you really need to know how to do it. That's a great question. Question number 3. There is a house worth $180,000. The seller may let it go for $140,000. It's tenant occupied and paying on time. I want to wholetail the property. Do I have to get an agent to list it on the MLS? Can I advertise it as a turnkey property? Well, let's look at this for a second. Let's back up and look at the numbers. Well, $180,000. That's what it's worth. That's what you're saying it's worth. Let's assume for a second it doesn't need any repairs, and that's highly unlikely. Every house needs a repair. My house is only 3 years old, and I could spend $10,000 repairing my house, and I have a really nice house. I maintain it, everything else, but I know I got some scratches in the hardwood floor. It's going to have to, probably a little bit of paint on the inside. I just know, it's going to need some stuff. And so not every house is going to need something. I always figure at least $5,000. But anyway, let's assume for a second it's worth $180, doesn't need anything, you get $180 for it. Well, what's 70% of $180? So I know 70 times 100 is 70, and then we have 70 times 80 is 56. So my maximum offer is $126 to the seller, and I don't even like 70%. So my maximum offer is $126. I like that 60 cents. So 60 times 100 is 60, 60 times 80 is 48. So my maximum offer to that seller would be 108. And at that point, I don't care if it's tenant occupied. I'll mitigate it if I have a problem tenant, the cost of evicting that person. But I don't really care if it's tenant occupied. I'm just gonna lower the price if it is, if I have a bad performing tenant. But I got to really be at that $108,000. $140 doesn't get me excited. That's not nothing, because you're gonna have 8% at the very minimum, 8.25. It's cost on 180 at the very minimum. No holding cost included in that. That's just the very minimum buying and reselling. So 8% of 180 of 8,000 and 6,400. You've got almost $15,000 that you're going to take off of or add to the 140. So let's add it to the 140. So now you're at 155. 155 from 180 isn't enough. It isn't enough. It is absolutely that $25,000 isn't enough for the risk. It's not enough. And you may say, yeah, but Mike, I only make $25,000 a year, so $25,000 would be good risk. Yes, it would be. It seems like it would be. But what happens if that property doesn't sell for 3 or 4 or 5 months? What's that money going to cost you? What's the $140,000 going to cost you? Those two things, right? Those two factors right there gobble up that $25,000 or a lot of that $25,000. What happens if your buyer comes along and wants some work repairs that you said, well, the house was worth $180 and no work required, and all of a sudden now you have $10,000 in work? It's not enough, folks. However, in order to wholetail, yeah, you'll need to have it on the MLS. And there's several ways to do that. I think you should be building a relationship with a real estate professional in your local marketplace. You're going to want them to do a lot of things for you, but you're going to make them money, okay? You'll be buying a house a month, and any realtor that's listening, raise your hand if you agree that if someone came to you and gave you 12 listings a year, that you'd be happy with that. You would. Some people, that would make them superstar or give them superstar status in their brokerage office. So you're going to benefit them, but find one that will help you too. So you'll need CMAs. You're not going to necessarily use them for BPOs because you really want a BPO agent to do BPOs. But yeah, you'll want to get it on the MLS. But you can also do flat fee listings as well. I don't like them in today's marketplace. When the market's really, 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 really hot, flat fee's okay. But when it's not hot, you're doing yourself a disservice. So as far as turnkey, I have no clue. I don't know what the property looks like.
Thanks for listening. We'll be right back. Are you running out of leads? It's time you tried Yellow Letters at yellowletters.com. Get motivated seller leads through yellow letters, postcards, zip letters, typed professional letters, greeting cards, door hangers, and business cards. Yellow Letters is a full-service marketing company created with your success in mind. Get the personal attention you need to get your direct mail campaign started and get in touch at yellowletters.com.
And we are back in 3, 2, 1.
Question number 4. How do you find business without marketing budget? Well, there's 2 things that cost you, that take money. Time, so you're going to do either sweat marketing or paid marketing. So if you don't have a marketing budget, you're paying for that marketing, but you're doing it with yourself, your time. And, we always put value on time. So you are paying for it. You're just not writing the check. So how do you find business? Look in your cell phone. How many phone numbers you got in your cell phone right now? How many of those people know you buy houses for a living? How many people that you know, and you may say, Mike, every one of them know that I buy houses for a living. Right. How many times have you talked to that person or those people over the last 30 days and asked them to tell their friends, their cell phone buddies on speed dial, that they know a guy or a gal that buys houses for a living and that they're ever interested, or if they know somebody to keep you in mind. I mean, have you done that? No, probably not. Are you, when you're at, the grocery store waiting for the teller to slide the groceries across for the person in front of you, are you talking to the person behind you? Are you talking to the person in front of you? Are you talking to the cashier when you go, it's your turn? Say, hey, by the way, I buy houses for a living. You know anybody looking to sell a house? How many times have you said that today? How many for sale by owners have you went to with the contract in your hand to buy the house? I mean, they put a sign out in front that says for sale by owner. They spend their own dollar advertising to you to come buy their house. How many times have you shown up to do that? How many times on a day off did you go down to the courthouse and sit in on unlawful detainer hearings? Unlawful detainer, that's when a landlord, an absentee owner, is evicting a tenant from their property. Man, they're prime prospects. How many times have you gone there and sat down there and, the judge says, can all the parties go on the hallway? Well, why don't you hang out in the hallway a little bit after everybody starts leaving and say, hey, by the way, my name is Michael Quarles with I Buy Houses. We're always looking for tenant problem properties. Man, the ears on that investor or that absentee owner is going to perk up. So that's what I do. Question number 5. I negotiated a great deal, congratulations, with a seller who has an attorney reviewing my 2-page purchase agreement. The seller wants the inspection clause taken out. I attempted to explain to him how there is, but wouldn't. Okay, I'm going to start this one over again. I apologize. I negotiated a great deal. I thought you had already got a great deal, but I was I jumped the gun. I was too excited for you. I negotiated. Well, you haven't really, according to your paragraph, but I'm going to go. I negotiated a great deal with a seller who has an attorney reviewing my 2-page purchase agreement. The seller wants the inspection clause taken out. I attempted to explain to him why it's there, but he wouldn't budge. He mentioned that he has other buyers interested, and I don't want to lose this deal. What would be my risk be, and should I move forward? You should not. No. If someone says, I want to sell you something, but you can't inspect the property, they're trying to hide something from you. Okay? They just are. I don't care how bad you want it. They're trying to tell you in advance there's something wrong with my property. And, you don't look down the barrel of a gun. You just don't. You try to never be in that situation. You're in this situation. And, if some other uneducated investor wants to go and put their money at risk, here's what's going to happen for you. That's a great thing. I want you to understand why this is a great thing. They're going to spend their resource buying the house they shouldn't have bought, so they can't buy the house you can buy next time. So I said that correctly. One more time. Think about this. They're going to take their money, buy a house they shouldn't have bought. Their money is now going to be used up. They don't have anymore. So here comes another seller along who isn't trying to hide anything from you, but you don't have any people, talking to the seller. You're the only one because those people spent their money on a house they shouldn't have bought. I think it's a great thing. So if someone wants to, because they're not trained well, they don't know how to communicate, they don't know how to negotiate, and I think you need some help on negotiation, especially if you think you had it negotiated, but you really didn't. I guess I could go on and on and on about negotiation all day long and on Saturdays and Sundays too, but those are the 5 questions. Remember, if you are interested in our coaching program, please give it a peek. It is pretty cool. We are now up to 13 classes a week. That's 13. That's a heck of a lot of classes. And then we have the monthly one-on-one accountability, which is really not monthly. I mean, man, we're talking to you folks a lot, which I think is kind of what we do, what we want to do. It's what I want to do. I want to create real estate investors. And then we got the CRM going, and I tell you what, we've got a great announcement that we're announcing for all the coaching students and that are a part of the system already. That's going to be fun for them. And it's not a bad price. It's right now it's at $297 a month, or for 6 months, or a one-time payment of $13.97. So it's not a bad price. Not at all. For everything that you get, the fact that here's the thing: the fact that you or anybody that's you work with. So say you have, someone you're wanting to train to answer the phone. They can sit on the calls. They can get on the training calls. I mean, it's pretty cool stuff. I don't know. Having the resource at your fingertips when you are in a situation where you need to know how to get out of it or get into it better, how to evaluate a deal, how to learn negotiation, how to talk to sellers, how to evaluate properties. I think all that stuff's important. And for, less than $300 a month, not a bad thing. But until next time, guys and gals, thanks so much for listening. You guys have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show. Get more info and stay in touch at michaelquarles.com.